Donald Trump sent the National Guard to Washington, D.C. because he wants America to be safe. Just kidding. Watch as Fox News talks about this issue.
So, isn't it fair to have them there? And it's Democrats that agree with this measure. Don't take my word for it. The local cop there, the police chief, agrees with this. The mayor of the city agrees with this. And it's because people that look like me and you are dying.
No one needs to explain to me the pain that is taking place in so many communities. No one needs to explain to me the pain that is taking place in so many communities, urban, rural, and suburban, who are being besieged by this issue of gun violence, who's being besieged by this issue of chronically and generationally not feeling safe inside of your neighborhoods. And it's the reason that we have made it our top priority to make sure that people are feeling safe. But I can tell you right now, what people want more than anything in those communities is they don't want performative, they want performance. Right? They're not looking for someone to walk around with military fatigues and a big gun. They're looking for someone who actually understands how to make people feel safe and how to make people actually safe in their communities. Our National Guards are not trained for this. I'm very specific about my role as Commander-in-Chief of the Maryland National Guard, and we know the missions that they are trained for, and municipal policing is not one of them.
So I'll tell you
this. And so if we want to be serious about making people safe, let's actually do the things that make people safe.
I'm well over time, Governor.
I don't know if anyone else noticed, but it feels like Fox News was like, find us a black male anchor to interview a black male governor. And then the black male governor schooled the Fox male anchor. Doesn't matter who the anchor is, the governor had the answers. And here's some more.
Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. No, Eddie's very talented. Crime is down in Washington, D.C. Street crime, violent crime by 25%. And people have seen, they've noticed a big difference.
And the murder rates are plummeting. We are now able to report that the murder rate is on track to be the lowest in U.S. history, in modern recorded U.S. history, thanks to this team behind me and President Trump's priorities.
Yeah, that's Donald Trump from a couple months ago, contradicting Donald Trump, contradicting Kash Patel. It's a bunch of contradictions. And here's one more.
The greatest nation on earth.
Is enough for that, or do you think it would need to be longer?
President Trump doesn't have a limitation on his authority to make this country safe again. There's no limitation on that.
Thank you, Mr. Hollen.
Is it me, or does Tom Homan always seem drunk? It seemed a little too early to be drunk, but he's drunk with power is what it is, because he says Donald Trump has no limitations. Of course he doesn't. Listen to him say it.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank
Your federalization of the police has a 30-day limit unless Congress acts to extend it. Are you talking to Congress about extending it, or do you believe 30 days is sufficient?
Well, if it's a national emergency, we can do it without Congress, but we expect to be to Congress, before Congress, very quickly. And again, we think the Democrats will not do anything to stop crime, but we think the Republicans will do it almost unanimously. So we're going to need a crime bill that we're going to be putting in.
There you go. As long as you say it's an emergency, you can do whatever you want. Go for it. Take over the country. Sure. What's this really about?
We've noted that violent crime is significantly down in D.C. So do you think this is really about law and order?
Anna, this is not about law and order. You know, way back on January 6th, when members of the Metropolitan D.C. Police Force and the Capitol Police were being bludgeoned by rioters and insurrectionists, it took forever for President Trump to nationalize the D.C. Guard. Here, as you said, we're seeing a 30-year low in terms of crime in D.C. The first 6 months of this year, crime's been further down. Obviously, you can always do better, which is why if Donald Trump actually wanted to help, he would release the $1 billion of D.C. taxpayer money that's being withheld by Republicans in Congress. So D.C. could hire more police and make further improvements. So this is all about him showing that he can use his power and his muscle to take over D.C. instead of allowing the people of D.C. to govern themselves.
And that's Senator Van Hollen laying it out like it really is. If Donald Trump really cared about law and order in D.C., he would not have told a mob to attack the Capitol on January 6th, where they fought police officers And then he sat there watching it on television. If this guy really cared about violent crime in Washington, D.C., he would not have pardoned all the people that beat up police officers and went into the Capitol on January 6th. If he really cared about law and order, he would look at statistics and he would tell you, like he did a couple months ago, that crime was down 25% in Washington, D.C. Why did he say that a couple months ago? Because it made him look good, because he was taking credit for it, the same way Kash Patel was taking credit for it. He was like, we did this, we did this. There was no indication of like, oh, crime has been going down steadily, but rather, look, we came in here, within 6 months, we cleaned it up. And then a couple months later, as if we don't remember a couple months ago or we can't look it up, he comes out and he says, oh, violent crime is running rampant. And I believe the reason this all even came about was because one of the members of DOGE, remember the Department of Government Efficiency, I think was jumped or mugged in D.C. and it came to Donald Trump's attention. And of course, this guy is the person who, you know, the president who acts on anecdotes, right? So he heard the story and he goes, well, then this must mean crime is up. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm not saying it's not bad that it is bad that, I mean, it is bad that it happened. And there is crime, as the governor of Maryland was saying, that there's crime, but there's ways to deal with it, and this is not the way to. If you're really serious about it, Senator Van Hollen told you, there's $1 billion that the Republicans are holding up. They're supposed to go to D.C. so that they can actually spend that money on actual police officers who would then get trained to combat crime in D.C. If you're really serious about it, you would go into these neighborhoods where there is crime and you would give these people that end up in gangs and in other violent organizations, you would give them opportunities by spending more money on education and improving the education. How about we do something revolutionary? How about we start paying teachers a good salary so that you can attract the best and the brightest, and then we send them into the communities where there's violence and there's poverty, and we help bring those people up so they don't have to mug anybody. How about that? But violent crime is down, and Donald Trump is just trying to flex his muscle. The same way he's got ICE agents showing up in Los Angeles, ICE agents all over the country. They want you to be scared. They want everybody to be scared because they want you to know that if he wants to, he could literally send the cavalry after you. They just show up and they get you. They've been doing that now. To originally it was some undocumented people. Then it was they started going after people with that were residents that they didn't like what they said, like your Mahmoud Khalils or the student at Tufts University. Then they started going after. They've been arresting citizens from sometimes, and so this whole show of force in D.C. is just a continuation of the show of force from his ICE stuff. And also, let's not forget, he's also trying to distract us from Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that's the other thing to not forget. He wants to say he's doing a great job. He always says he's doing a great job. I am the law and order. He can't even, how dare he even say that? After what he did on January 6th and never was regretful about it, never came out and apologized about it, continues to say that he won that election, continues to say that he did not goad his followers on to do the attacking that happened. How dare he pretend to be the law and order president? How dare the Republican Party pretend to be the law and order party right now? Because they're letting this guy just run amok with power. As you saw, he said, oh, if it's an emergency, what that means is if he decides to, he could have these National Guards in D.C. for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. He could start sending the National Guard elsewhere. And what we end up doing is we end up in court battles because states come out and they say, oh, this is not what we want. And then we end up in court battles. And of course, he loves court battles. So that's where we're at. And the Republican Congress right now is too weak to do anything. They don't want to do anything. And the Democrats don't have the power to do anything. And that's where your vote matters, folks. If you really are looking at what's going on and you see the S show that it is, shit show, if you see it, maybe think about voting for Democrats in the next election so that there is a check on this guy's power. Because apparently this guy doesn't think he has any kind of check on him. including the courts. They say they're going to ignore the courts. They're going to do what they want. Hey, it's an emergency. I can do whatever I want. I could send UFC fighters into the streets because it's an emergency. And I thought, hey, let's send some UFC fighters out there to fight people. By the way, the people that are being arrested currently are the unhoused. They're going after the unhoused right now because they want to clean up DC. And once again, we all know there's a big problem. There's a big homeless, unhoused problem right now in this country. But you don't fix it by arresting them and throwing them in jail. That doesn't help somebody who's on the streets because of financial reasons or addiction reasons or mental health reasons. That does not help them. That's the problem with the America that we're in right now. We are trying to solve these things with brute force because if that's who the leader is and that's what this party is, versus solving it with common sense. You need to create more places and more resources for people with mental health issues. And yet, with the big, beautiful bill, they're cutting resources. Surprise, surprise. They're cutting research. They're cutting money to universities. They're cutting anything that could be helping in the longer run just to show to his constituents that he's doing something tough. They're sitting there watching and Fox News go, oh, this guy's great. Look at this guy. He's cleaning up the streets. Sure, he's cleaning up the streets. Yeah, of course. Same guy who is committing, basically has committed fraud his whole life, committed all kinds of white-collar crime. Who knows if he's ever had somebody killed? Probably has. Probably has. He's that kind of a creep. He really is. I think he's a psychopath. Definitely a sociopath. So the fact that he can get out there in front of the cameras and say, oh, I'm here to fight crime because I am the law and order president, it shows you have to really have a disconnect with reality. You really do. And the fact that his followers believe it, then they have not been, they've had their head in the sand for a while. Let's not forget they tried to make us think that January 6th, they said, oh, those were tourists. Show the cameras from the other side, not the violent side. Show the camera from the other side of the building where a few people were just walking around the building. They were tourists. It's interesting to me how they're terrorists. Those guys were terrorists. They were violent criminals. How those guys became known as patriots. And yet when you have in these cities, you have homeless people or unhoused people, those people are a threat to DC and to the cities. Listen, folks, I'm not saying there's not a problem with crime. Obviously, crime will never be completely cleaned up. But you heard Donald Trump say it. Crime is down. 25% violent crime is down. And yet, he's decided to send these troops into Washington, D.C. We can only hope and pray that there's not some kind of escalation and altercation that leads to somebody getting hurt really bad or even getting shot. Currently, they say that a lot of these patrols are just walking around the city in like the nicer neighborhoods, just show of force, masked up. It's all a chilling effect. They want you and me to be afraid that there's guys with gear and guns. I mean, these guys, these guys are having the time of their lives. These guys have been sitting at home waiting for this moment. These guys have been sitting there with their food for a year's worth of food stocked up, ready to go. And finally, they got a president who's hired them to go around and be vigilantes on the streets. So no, it's not about law and order. No, he doesn't care about crime. You think he's ever had to encounter actual violent crime in the streets? No, he doesn't walk in the streets. He's in a car. He's not being mugged. But he heard about this one kid that got mugged, which is a bad thing. And he's saying that, oh, we're gonna clean this whole thing up. And Republicans got to clean it up because they are the party of law and order, except on January 6th. Interesting. Guys, I'm comedian Maz Jobrani. I've got a YouTube channel right here at Maz Jobrani. Check it out. Give it a follow. It's free. I post comedy. Hope you enjoy it. Peace.